It's 3:30 a.m. I just finished the finale to Invincible Season 3. I couldn't wait to watch it, so I got there the second that it dropped, kicking my feet in my chair, really excited. It was like midnight release for Halo 3 all over again. I needed to get it instantly, and I'm glad I did. This was an extremely strong finale. It really feels like this is where all of the budget went. We're going to get into some things that I thought Season 3 was a little weak on. Spoiler alert, it's the animation. There's a lot of cope with people saying, no, the animation was actually really good for Season 3. Don't listen to that. That's like someone trying to convince you that a crypto meme coin is a good idea for an investment. That is just downright fraudulent. So, Invincible Season 3 I think is extraordinary. I think the writing is probably some of the best in the series so far. At least I personally feel that way. I really like a lot of the characters they brought back. I'm going to try and avoid spoilers to the best of my ability, but one of my big complaints I cannot talk about without getting into spoilers, but I'll give you a fair warning for that. This season had so many moving parts, and I think all of it was handled exceptionally well. The relationship between Mark and Eve, Debbie now moving on from Omni-Man and getting a new partner that's coming into her life and trying to explore what does that look like, because it's not Omni-Man, this is just a guy. This is like super normal dude man. And now he's coming into this family with two super-powered individuals, the two strongest heroes on the planet, Invincible and Oliver. Omni-Man's other son, Oliver, is now this kid with an extraordinary amount of strength, and he seems to think similar to his dad in certain parts when it comes to life and death. And, maybe it's more effective to kill the bad guys. I happen to agree. I think it is more effective if they were killing some of the bad guys, but that is a big prevailing theme throughout the season about teaching Oliver no, killing is not good. But also, maybe it kind of is in certain cases with some of these bad guys that keep showing up and fucking our butts. You know what I mean? So it's a really well-executed balance of this. Rexplode, he's gone through this crazy, come to Jesus character arc where now he's like a really charming dude who's turned his whole life around, and now he's got a love interest of his own, and it's that relationship that gets quite a lot of screen time, and all of it is just done really well. Typically when you have this many, buns in the oven, this much meatball in the spaghetti, things get a little lost. Not here. It feels like everything got the perfect amount of attention and tender love and care put into it. Because at no point did it feel flat or underdeveloped. But, of course, it's not just about the characters and their relationships, We're not watching fucking Young and the Restless here. It is a show about superheroes and supervillains, and there's a lot of clashing here. We even get more Alan, we get more Omni-Man, and we actually get some fucking Battle Beast. I become a big Battle Beast guy. Very cool character. And it's a lot of fun, and I think they do a great job, in spite of the really weak animation. I'm ripping the Band-Aid off. There's a lot of people that are going to try and scream at you that the animation's actually really good. It's just people that are getting in your ear, feeding you a bunch of fucking phony baloney lies that the animation's bad. It's not. Don't believe them. No, don't believe them that's telling you that. The animation is noticeably worse than Season 1 and 2. There are so many times in this show where a fight is going on, and it's just kind of a still image. Does this look familiar? It's like a fucking flipbook animation for some of these fights. Not all of them. There are moments in the first 6 episodes where there are good fight sequences that are animated well, but it's not the majority of them. Oh my god, there are some super stinker moments. I don't want to open up any wounds here from people repressing the trauma of some terrible animated fight sequences, but there's one scene where Robot is standing still doing this, and they just have green blobs that'll come out occasionally. Like he's just dribbling out green projectiles and just not moving like this while fighting. And it's not like he's like in the background doing that where, you can get away with someone doing that and it's not a big deal. Like, who's going to give a fuck? He is literally in the forefront. It is focused on him and he's just doing this bing, 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 bing with some green projectiles coming out. There are a lot of bad animated moments. And then there's another really noteworthy one there is a new villain who's being transported, and he overcomes the holds, and the car that was transporting him gets thrown off the bridge, and then it's like this really almost like Transformers Beast Wars from the late 90s, like CGI truck that's like flipping around a little bit. Like it looks like a Nintendo 64 cutscene. It's bad. There are a lot of moments where the animation is bad. Just face the facts. It doesn't ruin the season by any means, and it's very clear that the emphasis for animation was put into the last 2 episodes. Episodes 7 and 8, they go hard, and it is so much better. To the point where it just makes me feel like, man, why couldn't we just have more of that for the first 6 too? Like, this show is extremely popular. Surely Amazon has enough money in the vault to allocate to big animation. We saw it in season 1 already. Like, come the fuck on. But anyway, that's the only, like, glaring issue with the season is just how weak it is when it comes to its animation. It's a real fucking shame. Because it deserves to be, you know, top tier, top notch animation. It is so good. You know a show is good when you start to argue with people about character motivations and like who's right, who's wrong within the context of the show. Like Cecil versus Mark, where there was like a big debate I'd have with chat about like who's right, is Mark right or is Cecil right? Because Cecil does some unethical means to save the world, but Cecil's heart is always we're saving the world no matter what it takes. And he has a really, what I believe to be, profound line of we can either be the good guys or the guys that save the world. And I think that's really powerful. He wants to save the world, and he's willing to do some shady shit for it, such as having a very bad guy come back and start doing some questionable experiments to create some countermeasures to extremely powerful threats. I'm trying not to spoil things. And Mark views that as the ultimate irredeemable evil. These people need to be locked up behind bars because they're bad people. And Cecil, when confronted with this, even calls out Mark on the hypocrisy because Mark is right. Like he's had a conversation with Oliver about like how people haven't forgiven their father for what he did on this planet. And like how Mark is starting to come to terms with like he still loves his father and to a certain extent forgives him. But Mark can't extend that same level of forgiveness where he can see like villains turning things around to try and save the world. Like they don't get that chance. Only Mark's dad gets that chance because Mark says so. And Cecil calls him out on the hypocrisy, and I think it's a really strong point. I think Cecil is more in the right than Mark in that regard. And things, of course, change throughout the season as Mark gets more going on and as Cecil gets more going on. But I just think that they do such a strong job in the writing that having these arguments is really enjoyable. So I just really love Season 3. Now, big spoilers. Huge spoilers. This is your warning. Big spoilers because I'm talking about the finale in particular. Okay, you know how I just said Cecil is my favorite character? They fucking butchered him in the very finale. Very end of the finale. Cecil, throughout this entire show, has been a very smart guy. I think he hasn't always gone about things in the best way, such as like what he put in Mark's head. Like, him putting it there makes sense after everything they've went through, but the way that he conveys that idea to Mark, I think, is extremely inefficient, and there was absolutely a way where he could have Mark still be on his side if he was able to just explain it better. But he just puts up this like huge callous front and doesn't really elaborate. Of course, Mark didn't give him a ton of opportunities, but I just think Cecil has always made smart decisions for the greater good. And he hasn't done anything that I believe is just detrimental or super stupid. He just hasn't been always optimal when explaining or going about his goal. Until the very end. After Mark defeats Conquest, Cecil has him trapped in a huge, impenetrable, unbreakable container of metal. And he keeps Cecil's body there so that way he can regenerate, so that Cecil can interrogate him so he can learn about the Viltrumite weaknesses and how many others might show up. That is a complete betrayal of Cecil's character. I believe that is a full-blown assassination of the Cecil that we've come to know and love from the show. There is no way, with everything he has seen and everything he's been through, and him even blatantly stating that this is the strongest Viltrumite they've seen, that he thought a fucking giant hunk of metal would be enough to contain him. He didn't plant anything in his head. He didn't cut off his limbs or anything to prevent him from flying away. He just let him fully regenerate in this block of fucking metal, with nothing else as like a failsafe, and expects him not to break out. He's going to break out, it's very clear. He's not going to get any information out of this. I even had to look this up because I thought maybe the show did this because it's so stupid, not a left field for Cecil's character, because this is just dumb. Everyone knows, and Cecil would know because He has dealt with this shit. There is no way he would think that metal would be enough to contain him. So I looked it up. It's the same in the comics. I am begging, absolutely begging, that the writers change this. Like, going into season 4, maybe Cecil mentions that he has, like, a device implanted in his head, and like, then something goes wrong with the device, and that's how he breaks out. But I am just begging. Like, you can still have him break out, whatever. Like, I can understand an argument for why Cecil wouldn't just, like, dispose of Conquest's body because he could find some use for it. I thought it would be, like, another, drone soldier. But I could see value in why he'd keep it there to try and learn as much as he can about the Viltrumites. But I don't think there's any possible argument you could use to justify his means of trying to, like, contain him. No failsafes, no nothing at all with the most powerful creature they have ever seen. That is not in line with Cecil's character. You can have him break out, fine. But at least write something in there that Cecil tried to think of absolutely everything. The implanted device that worked on Mark, so he knows it works on Viltrumite. Cutting off his arms and legs, but somehow he regenerated them. Something to try and explain that Cecil did everything, and this was truly like a freak thing that Conquest escaped. Because as it stands right now, when Conquest inevitably escapes, I'm going to think Cecil is the biggest bumbling fucking idiot character in the show, which ruins everything that it has set up so far for Cecil. And there's nothing he can ever do to redeem that, at least not to me, because this is such a, catastrophic blunder that is so out of line for Cecil's character. Like, again, him keeping Conquest is in line with his character. But doing absolutely nothing besides just putting him in a sarcophagus to contain him, that doesn't fly. That does not work for what Cecil has showcased throughout this whole show. So I am really, really hoping they change that, because I think that super duper sucks. I think that is trash. Absolute garbage. Anyway, I'll stop ranting and raving about that. But that is a huge complaint of mine at the very end there. I just think that is bad writing with what they've done with Cecil there. Anyway, though, I loved season 3. Absolutely glued to it. Another banger. I think Invincible is still a must-watch show, and I cannot wait for more. So yeah, that's really about it. See ya.